Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a forensic audit of a seriously classified intelligence mystery. We're going to pull back the curtain on this wild espionage dossier, looking at a meticulous, highly funded operation that basically mashes up ancient mythology with modern, black-budget satellite surveillance. This is the story of hunting Noah's Ark and the CIA's intense search for physical evidence of a literal planetary cataclysm. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this, because right out of the gate, we're hit with a massive, glaring contradiction. So the Orthodox public narrative from the government and academia, they openly mock the idea of a biblical flood. They treat it as pure myth. But the source material we're auditing today reveals a vastly different reality playing out behind closed doors. According to these declassified files, the intelligence community was actively, obsessively hunting for the wreckage. I mean, think about it. Why on earth would the most pragmatic, data-driven intelligence apparatus on the planet spend millions of dollars in space-age tech looking for a wooden boat from a Sunday school story? Well, to answer that, we need to look at our first piece of newly unearthed evidence. Section 1. The Ararat Anomaly. Treat this next concept like a piece of physical forensic evidence, because this is the exact moment where the myth suddenly becomes a physical target. The source material presents this super stark contrast. On one side, you have the Orthodox public narrative. You know, it's a comforting story. It tells us that human history is just this slow, steady, totally uninterrupted climb from cave dwellers to modern civilization, and the Ark is just a fable. But then, there's what the dossier calls the classified Archonic Narrative. This is the terrifying, highly classified assumption held by the intelligence community that highly advanced, pre-diluvian technology actually existed. In this framework, the Ark isn't some magical, floating zoo. It's a physical, heavily engineered survival chassis designed to weather a literal kinetic apocalypse. And the deep state? They wanted to find it. And the hunt began with a very specific, staggering number. 15,500. That is the altitude, in feet, way up in the treacherous, freezing glacial ice of Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey. That's exactly where a massive anomaly was first discovered. Back in 1949, a U.S. Air Force reconnaissance mission was flying a C-47 aircraft, and they captured high-resolution photographs of something completely out of place, just jutting right out of the deep freeze of the mountain. What they actually captured on film was this massive, totally anomalous, boat-like structure. We're talking roughly 1,000 feet, or about 300 meters long, and 300 feet wide. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the core mystery, because those precise dimensions, they perfectly align with ancient Sumerian and biblical descriptions of a massive pre-flood vessel. So this wasn't just some blurry, weirdly shaped shadow on the ice. It was a structure with distinct, engineered geometry, sitting exactly where the ancient texts said it would be. The intelligence community absolutely did not dismiss this as a mere rock formation. They took it incredibly seriously, and it triggered a monumental shift in their operations. Section 2, Eyes in the Sky. So we're transitioning now from the initial discovery of the anomaly to the massive black-budget espionage operation deployed to surveil it. Let's just walk through the chronology of this operation really quickly, because it spanned decades. It starts with that 1949 Air Force C-47 flyover we just mentioned, but, as aerospace tech evolved, so did the surveillance. Moving it to the 1970s, the dossier outlines how the intelligence community utilized the highly classified KH-4 Corona satellite program to conduct sweeping reconnaissance of the mountain. Then, pushing all the way into the 1990s, they deployed the KH-9 hexagon satellites. Basically, the intelligence apparatus repeatedly, almost obsessively, photographed this exact freezing coordinate over the course of half a century. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale, the astronomical cost, and honestly, the terrifying capability of the hardware deployed for this operation. We are looking at joint oversight by the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency. We are talking massive black budget funding pouring in from the National Reconnaissance Office. The KH-9 hexagon satellites they tasked with looking at this anomaly possessed sub-meter optical resolution. That is literally some of the most advanced, highly restricted visual tech in human history, and it was all supplemented by U-2 spy planes. The source material asks a very logical question here. Why does the intelligence apparatus spend millions of dollars in highly restricted satellite time looking for a biblical boat? Section 3. The Classified Cataclysm.
Okay, to really understand their motive, we have to pivot our explainer from what the intelligence apparatus was looking for to the geological terror of why they were looking for it. The dossier claims the CIA didn't just suppress photos of the anomaly, they actively suppressed the physics that explained it. So back in 1965, an aerospace engineer and former intelligence officer named Chan Thomas attempted to publish a book called The Adam and Eve Story. According to the source material, the CIA aggressively intervened and just classified the whole manuscript. It remained entirely inaccessible to the American public for nearly 50 years until a heavily redacted, sanitized 57-page version was finally declassified in 2013, which leaves us wondering, what was so incredibly dangerous about a book on ancient geology? Well, the answer is crustal displacement. The suppressed document mathematically modeled a truly terrifying geophysical theory. It theorized that, driven by severe breakdowns in the Earth's magnetosphere, the entire outer lithosphere, the 30 to 50 mile thick crust of the planet we actually live on, periodically detaches from the viscous mantle right below it. Basically, the Earth doesn't just slowly change over millions of years. It undergoes catastrophic, cyclical, and incredibly violent resets.
Section 4. Mathematics of the Flood.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of this destruction, exactly as it was modeled in the classified texts. I really want to prepare you for the kinetic reality of what this theory actually proposes. The physical math breaks down the sheer kinetic terror step by step. Step 1, a severe breakdown in the Earth's magnetosphere triggers the whole event. Step 2, that 30 to 50 mile thick lithosphere crust completely detaches and just slips. Step 3, the oceans, which obviously aren't physically bound to the crust, obey the law of inertia. They just keep rotating at the Earth's standard equatorial velocity. This causes the oceans to violently slosh over the continents at roughly 1,000 miles per hour. Guys, we are talking about supersonic tsunamis, literally miles high, that would instantaneously annihilate and bury all coastal and low-altitude civilizations in a matter of hours.
And the dossier points to a very specific timestamp for the last time this occurred, approximately 11,600 years ago. This physical math perfectly explains the Younger Dryas boundary, a geological period where the source material claims highly advanced pre-diluvian civilizations were instantly wiped out, ripped apart, and buried under miles of ocean, mud, or ice. The flood wasn't magic, you see. It was a mathematical inevitability.
Section 5. The Deep State's Motive. Which brings us to arguably the most chilling part of our forensic audit. We have to connect this geological threat right back to the espionage operation. Why does the modern intelligence apparatus desperately want to find the wreckage of the Ark up on Mount Ararat? Well, according to the text, if the Ark is a physical structure, it implies something profound. It implies that someone or some intelligence knew the math. It implies humanity was explicitly warned of the impending crustal displacement. So the crucial point is this. Finding a physical ark proves that cyclical, global destruction is absolutely not a myth. It is a mathematical certainty. It proves that human civilization isn't some linear progression of uninterrupted growth, but an incredibly violent cycle of total destruction and scavenged restarts.
Our forensic audit details the ultimate motives for this multi-million-dollar satellite hunt. The intelligence community isn't looking for religious artifacts here. They want to recover preserved pre-flood DNA from what would essentially be the ultimate biological vault. They want to retrieve any lost pre-diluvian technology or historical records preserved inside the chassis. But most importantly, and this is key, by studying the Ark and the physics of the last cataclysm, they want to calculate the exact mathematical timeline of the next planetary reset. They are literally hunting for the blueprints to survive the next inevitable crustal displacement.
And that brings us to the chilling implication of this entire intelligence dossier. The source material suggests that the elite are actively building deep underground military bases and seed vaults right now to survive the math that they classified decades ago. It leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question to ponder. If global cataclysms are a cyclical, mathematical certainty, and the deep state already knows the timeline, who gets a seat on the next ark? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.